Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge.
And I'm Ashley Sledge.
And let's talk horror. So today we're going to be giving you our review on 2023's Thanksgiving.
So it is going to be a spoiler review. So please, if you haven't seen the movie, go see it. We're going to first give you some positives, some negatives, and then we are going to spoil the movie. So please, if you haven't seen it, go check it out.
But with our positives and negatives, they will be spoiler free. So let's get right into it and talk about the positives.
If you guys know me, you know that I love gore, and this is top notch. The gore is so good, and it had me cringing at times. I really like the gore a lot.
I completely agree. It had some great gore scenes. It also wears a lot of its influences on its sleeve.
Yes, it does.
There's a scene that is very reminiscent of Halloween 1978 with someone looking out a window and seeing somebody, and then that person is gone in the next shot. I thought that was really cool, especially, it was definitely an homage.
It definitely was.
The minute you see it, you're like, I know what that is.
Yes, and you're like, yeah. John Carver, he is an amazing villain. He, the gore, he's brutal. He's an awesome villain.
What I like about this movie, too, is it uses a lot of social media throughout the movie. Mm-hmm. And all of their things they did to promote the movie, they did through Instagram by tagging you and stuff and sending you DMs through the John Carver thing.
Which is very relevant for today.
Mm-hmm. They did a great job with that. And I love the villain as well. There are some great practical effects in this movie. Mm-hmm. Something that Ashley and I talked about, neither one of us have always been huge Eli Roth fans. But I think that he knocked it out of the park with this film, especially with the practical effect aspect side of things. Really, really good practical effects.
So to me, it felt very 2000s slasher feel. You get a lot of the feels from the 2000 slashers in this movie. I kind of picked up on a couple different ones, honestly.
Yes. And it's more like they honor them. It's not like a straight rip-off or anything like that.
Just the way that they do certain things, it just feels very early 2000s.
Very original, too.
Yes.
There was a lot of things that we'll talk about really in the spoiler side of things I thought were really, really great. But there are some very uncomfortable moments throughout this film. And I don't mean anything with SA or anything like that, but what characters are going through and certain things that they go through, very, very uncomfortable moments where you're cringing watching, like, oh, can this be over yet? Please let this be over.
Yeah, and it's very brutal. Like I said, the gore is amazing, and just the brutality of the kills. Oh, it's so good.
John Carver has the potential to be a household name in the future, in my opinion.
Real, yeah.
The brutality is top notch. He goes all in on his brutality, and I think this has the opportunity to be a franchise. And that I don't think that gives anything away, because as you know, with the Scream movies, they are franchised without the same killer.
Yeah.
This could be the same killer throughout every movie. It could be a different killer throughout the movies. So those are some of the positives that we're going to talk about that are spoiler free. So now let's get to some of the negatives we want to talk about.
So some of the negatives, some of the characters are over the top and kind of unbelievable, like over the top, like mean or negative, or even some of the teenagers. It's like, okay, some teenagers, they can be obnoxious, but not like this is over the top, and like it doesn't feel very believable to me.
Especially with how they end up and where they go, it doesn't feel genuine at a lot of points. We talked about how it did have some great practical effects, some great gore. The CGI usage, however, was pretty wonky at certain points. That's what I don't like about movies like this that have such great practical effects. When they try to use some CG effects, you can really tell it's CG because of how well done the practical things were. So when they did do their bits of CGI in this film, it was like, ooh, that did not look good at all.
Yeah, I agree with that. Not a big fan of the reveal or even of the motive of the killer. It just seemed over the top. I don't know. I guess over the top or not, like unnecessary.
Shoehorned in.
Yeah, like you're pulling at strings at this point. Like it just seemed,
But it's not anything that can't be built on.
Right.
And it has a terrible ending.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I say a bad ending, I don't think like the reveal or anything like that is, like that didn't pull me out of the movie.
Yeah.
But the ending itself is just like, I want more.
It feels like they didn't know where to end it.
Yeah. I feel like the ending is a big homage to another film that's ending I'm not a huge fan of. So I'm going to leave it at that. But obviously we don't have as many negatives as we do positive on our first viewing because we were both very big fans of this. And now we are going to talk about some more positives and negatives. But if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want to be spoiled about a killer reveal or certain kills, now is your time to pause this, go watch it, and then come back and finish because now we're going to spoil this movie for you.
Alright guys, so here's some spoilers. So at one point in the movie, he actually changes his disguise. So he goes from John Carver and then he disguises himself as a clown to kind of throw off his scent. And it's very original to me, unexpected. I didn't expect that to happen.
Right.
And especially when you figure out who the killer is, you're like, oh,
makes a lot of sense.
Okay, you smarty. You are a smarty.
Right. And the big thing about this movie is it takes place in Plymouth, Massachusetts. And John Carver is the guy that founded Plymouth, Massachusetts. And so he is everywhere in the town, especially at Thanksgiving. They have masks of him in the stores.
They're handing out masks at the diner
yeah.
And everyone has a mask. So he knew that people were going to be going around this parade with these masks on.
Because they're trying to set him up. The police, the family, they're trying to set him up so they can get him. And so they go to the parade anyway, and there's John Carver's everywhere. And now here he comes out in a clown suit.
Yeah.
So very, very original. Really loved that. Now, some of the brutality we want to talk about.
Yes.
There's one scene where he pushes his kid's head down on the table and takes a meat pounder and just literally pounds his head into nothing.
To nothing.
Oh, and you get brain matter. You get all of it. And it is awesome.
And it's so cool.
It looks so good. We actually see a woman get cut in half by a dumpster.
Yes.
Now, look, the kill is cool and original, but this is one of those CGI moments where you're like, ooh, that could have looked a little bit better.
Yeah, but still you're like, oh.
Because before that, he dumps her head in water, and she's a waitress at the diner. So he dumps her head in water, and then he picks her up and sticks her to the freezer door.
Yeah, and so she like pulls her face off
and
of
her
the
hand,
freezer
her
door.
hand's on there too.
Yeah, well,
so
she cut her hand,
and she's
also.
trying to swipe.
She's
on
all
her phone,
bloody, and it's got blood all over
and she
it.
can't do facial recognition because her face is all messed up, so she can't call for help. So that's again something modern in a horror movie. It's like, why don't you just use your cell phone? This lady can't.
Yeah.
Her face is messed up.
Different.
So it can't get facial recognition. Her hand is messed up from being cut and frozen.
Plus
so she
the
can't
phone
even
has blood all over it. So
the
you
phone.
know when if your screen gets wet, you can't use it because it's slippery.
And then the opening at the store. There's like this electronic store, kind of like a Target almost, is what I would compare it to, I guess.
Yeah,
not electronic, but it's got everything.
Yeah.
And everybody's outside waiting to get in on Thursday night for Black Friday sales. And when the doors finally break, because they end up breaking and glass shatters, and one guy gets his jugular cut. People are getting stomped to death. One woman gets scalped, part of her scalp ripped off.
They definitely show how, we're so thankful we're having Thanksgiving with our family, and then we just go at it for these sales. Like, they definitely show that bad side
and how inconsiderate people are to that. So, and then the last one we want to talk about with the kills is there's a woman that literally gets cooked alive inside like a big pizza oven.
Yes.
I call it a pizza oven because it's got the glass where you can look in, and it's long.
Yeah.
And she just, like, before he puts her in, he seasons her.
Yeah, he seasons her. He puts butter on her. He gets her all ready.
He bastes her all up.
Yeah.
And then later on in the movie, she's the turkey at the Thanksgiving dinner. It's funny. When you first see it, it's funny.
Yeah.
But like the way that he sets her up, like she looks like
her legs are all bent back and her arms, and she looks like a freaking turkey. Her head's cut off, and even her skin, because of the way he basted her, it looks like turkey skin, and it's so disgusting but so cool.
And he cuts a piece of her off, so he's gonna force feed her to her husband, and you're like, oh my god, don't do it. I was like, no, please don't do it.
Just the way like her muscles and stuff,
and you still see the veins, and
it's so disgusting.
The attention, and that's what I was talking about earlier. When you do have these bad CGI moments, like when you have the dumpster with the woman getting cut in half, You have those bad CGI moments, and then you get the practical moments like this that look so good.
Yeah.
That it really enhances how bad those CGI moments are. But one really big negative about that cooking scene.
Yeah, so the cooking scene really threw us on the scent of knowing who the killer is because of something he said earlier on in the movie. So we're like, oh.
The stepmom comes out and she's like, he comes in and he has a pie that he baked her.
Yeah.
And she's like, you baked this? He's like, yeah, for a single guy, I know my way around an oven.
Yeah.
And she's like...
it's his friends that he's going to visit.
Right, yeah. It's the friend's house. And he's like, yeah, I'm a single guy, so I know my way around an oven. And she's like, oh, I don't think you'll be single for very long. And then it shows him cooking and putting her in the oven. I was like, oh, now I see it.
Yeah, well, before even he made her, like, he was making cranberry sauce. Like, he was making all these different things.
So the killer, we're going to get to the killer reveal now. It is the sheriff of the town.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that he's the killer, we talked about how we're not big fans of this. At the beginning, during the store massacre, during the Black Friday massacre, one of the guys that was at the dinner party, his wife died. She was trampled. She was the one that got scalped in the store.
Yeah, they literally hit her with a cart and
scalped her.
And her hair gets like stuck in the cartwheel and it just scalps her. Yeah. So cool.
So cool. Well, it turns out that she was cheating on her husband at the time with the sheriff, and she was pregnant with his baby.
So he said, you took my family away, and now last Thanksgiving I was with her, and now this Thanksgiving I'm
going to take your guys' family away, essentially.
I'm here in this office by myself, pretty much.
Right. And it could have been much better. But what I love about the ending is when he reveals himself to Jess, I think her name was Jess, he's like, you should see the surprised look on your face. Well, there was a cell phone sitting there that was evidence, and she took it, and she was live streaming, and we didn't know. Mm-hmm. And then she's like, I never told you what I was thankful for. And he goes, what are you thankful for? And she's like, and she holds up the cell phone, and she's like, the Wi-Fi or the service in this room. So it's been live streaming the whole time.
You bitch.
Yeah. So yeah, that's, again, it really uses stuff from today. Mm-hmm. They didn't try to make it set back in the 80s, which was kind of the feeling I got when I saw the trailer.
Yeah.
That we were going to get like a 70s, 80s slasher, which would have been fine. But it is a modern slasher, and they use modern problems and solutions. That's part of the whole thing with the killer, too. He's live streaming all this stuff from different points of view. Mm-hmm. And he uses Instagram. He tags them in Instagram posts to kind of tease them on things.
He has each of like their name tags at the dinner table, you know, and like pretty much just saying like, you're gonna be here.
You're gonna be here.
Yeah.
So like I said, there's a lot to unpack about this movie. We're gonna let's get to our final thoughts and our overall rankings on the film.
So some of my final thoughts, I went into this movie pretty blind. I really didn't know what to expect. Like Ken said earlier, it kind of looked like it was like a 70s, 80s slasher, and it definitely wasn't. It was very more modern than I had thought it would be. And I had a lot of fun with it. Mm-hmm. Very gory, and just the brutality and just I don't know, there were so many homages to different slashers. I really liked it.
See, and we only watched the first trailer. We take a trailer to have a little piece of it, and then we move on. So we didn't really get into the whole depth of what the movie was.
Which I think makes it better. You're surprised. And this was a pleasant surprise.
Oh, absolutely. I'm actually, as of right now, as of recording, this is in my top 5 of 2023. That's how much I like this movie. For being a slasher, it still had a lot of anxious moments. Mm-hmm. A lot of there was not a lot of jump scares in this movie. But the jump scares that they did have, they were effective. I jumped. Like, they scared me legitimately. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't like, because it was a loud, tone or music. It was like a legitimate jump scare. Right. So there's a lot that goes on with this movie that you can enjoy if you're not a fan of slashers. Mm-hmm. They keep it pretty practical and like realistic. But at the same time, there's a lot to unpack with the movie as a whole. Mm-hmm. The ending itself, I think, sets up perfectly for a sequel. Oh, yeah. We talked about a little bit earlier in the negatives about the ending, but I don't want to spoil that part. I don't want to, even though this is a spoiler review, I don't want to talk about exactly what happens at the end, because if you haven't seen it, I still really feel like if you like spoilers, you should still go into this movie to see the ending for yourself and gauge what you think happens at the end. Mm-hmm. I think it sets up perfectly for a sequel. And what Ashley said that I agree with, very My Bloody Valentine remake style. The end, especially, the way they end it. Yeah, and
when they do finally make a sequel, I'm hoping that I'm right in my thinking.
So I think that this should be a sequel. And there's a lot of films that we talk about where I'm like, I hope this is a standalone film. We find out it's going to become a sequel or a franchise and we get bummed. This is one I think could be a very, very good franchise. You could really build off what happened in this movie. So
we're always talking about we need new slashers. And I think John Carver could be a new slasher.
Put him up there with Art the Clown as original new slashers. Yes. You know, we're still getting the Ghostface with Scream. They just signed on for some more Mikey with Halloween.
Which is fine, but let's get some OGs.
So we need some new blood here.
Yeah.
Some new blood that's going to come in and just be original slashers. So I think John Carver could, take the cake on that one.
Or the pie.
Take the cake or the pie. But overall, I'm actually going to give this movie a 4 out of 5. I went into this with, I don't want to say low expectations, but middle of the road expectations, because I've never been a huge fan of Eli Roth. I thought his brutality was a little much and it overweighed what the story was. That wasn't the case here. He kept his brutal nature, but the story is great. You have characters you eventually relate to. At the beginning, I literally looked at Ashley, I was like, this is our kid. This is our son.
I was like, no, as annoying as our kid is, he's not even this over the top.
I was like, I'm old. That's how I felt at the beginning of the movie. But you really grow to appreciate the characters. The acting was phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
There's a couple parts where you're like, it could have been a little better. But overall, like I said, I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 5.
I think I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5. Like I said, I really enjoyed this movie a lot. I left the theater, and this has been kind of a long time coming, and I was giddy, and I was like, I want to watch this again.
I do want to watch it again.
I had a lot of fun with it. Like you said, even the character development, you do feel for some of the characters.
There's a lot of real life family drama shit too.
Yeah, there's issues in different families, and you feel for some of the characters.
Yeah. So again, guys, let us know in the comments, what did you think of Thanksgiving? What were some of your favorite kills? What were some of your favorite parts? And until next time, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel more than you know. And follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. Our links are in the description as well. Keep talking horror.
Stay who you are.
And we'll see you guys soon.
Bye, guys.